Okay, and we are live. What's up, y'all? Welcome to stream number 2 of the night for VKH Live. Grimoire. We is talking Grimoire. I am your host, Jeff DeWitt. We have had this stream requested for a while. So glad to get to it. This will actually not be the first time we've talked about Grimoire at VKH, at least. I think we brought him up a few times on VKH Live, but we definitely Winona and I had a check-in with them sort of when they were putting out releases earlier in the year. We just did it on VKH Breakdown because we weren't doing live streams at the time, so glad to kind of check back this. So this won't be me going in like 1,000% fresh into this band, like having freshly researched it. We have been aware of Grimoire for a while. They started popping up in my personal YouTube suggestions as I scour the YouTube nets quite frequently since like sometime 2016. Their PVs seem to be gaining a lot of traction, and they are a very interesting band with a very genuinely interesting concept. We'll get into that, and I actually quite enjoy what I've heard recently, and we will get into that as well. But first, we can kind of go give a quick overview of the members. I've got some of the artist picks up on screen. By the way, shout out to Delta Spell. I believe she's on YouTube as Delta Sora in the chat for making the art for this, and also shout out to her for assisting with like making a lot of gifts and for like the different streams for the donations and stuff. Like if you go to you can go to either streamlabs.com/vkhpress or bit.ly/vkhpress. She has been making a lot of the gifts there, and it's been helpful. So I think one should show up on screen if I did it right, if I did a good thing. Yeah, so like the ones that look like that, a lot of those lately have been heard. That's been a big help for me. By the way, let me know what you think I should call those. Like I called them super chats first. I called them tips after. I've been calling them tips lately because I put the tip jar up on screen because it was a stocking, and I thought it was funny that they actually you can make it a stocking. But I was thinking like we could call them signs, like signs in the crowd, and it's like. When someone sends a donation, which helps support the site and stuff, and we read the message off, like it could be like reading off a sign in the crowd since it's VKH Live, so I can just like run through the signs and stuff. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. But anyways, back to Grimoire. So we got. Okay, so for the members, it looks like we have 4 current members and a former member. So current members with a vocalist. I still don't know how to say this. I'm gonna go with Rink or Rank. It's capital R, lowercase y, capital N, capital K. And the guitarist is Key, K-I-E, bassist Lune, and drummer Mel. This seems to be their biggest breakout band for all of them. I don't think Oh, by the way, their former member was Amu was formerly a guitarist, and it appears he left very recently, as of yeah, it had to have been very recently because he had a their most recent release prior to the one that's coming out in a couple days was in, well, no, I take it back, it wasn't that, well, their last release was in April, and so he's had a, you know, they went from 5-member picks to 4-member picks, I'll put it that way. It was very sad. But yeah. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So I guess the core of the band, the drummer or the guitarist Namu, who's now gone, and guitarist Key, and bassist Lune. So that majority is from a band known as Peace. Was their previous band. Vocalist was in a couple bands, and it appears that the drummer was the closest I could find to one that's was in a band I was familiar with. He was support for a lot of different bands. Also in the same band as the vocalist Diamond at one point. But he was a support drummer, it appears, for Marblehead, which is another indie band that I think is doing pretty good. They are like a goofy, kind of quirky indie band. I might cover them at some point. They're very amusing. I'll leave it at that. But in terms of their music, so I kind of want to start with the concept for anyone that's not familiar. Grimoire is a really cool concept. I think it's a cool concept. We've talked about it in the past the last time we talked about them, but it's been a while. So I guess the easiest way to describe it is there is like so essentially the vocalist represents like a boy, like a sleepy boy, a sleepy boy, but like also like a sleepy child or a dreaming child. And then the support not the support members, the other members are usually representing his dreams / nightmares, like figments of his imagination that visit him when he sleeps. So you'll notice the vocalist is often dressing very childish, you could say, very, like in pajamas and things like that. And then the, all the other members around him are dressed usually somewhat monstrously or just somewhat otherworldly. So it kind of gives a very, that's kind of the vibe, is it's not like a dark fantasy or a wonderland. It's almost like a dreamland / nightmare world kind of a thing. And I think that really allows them to, like, I mean, the visual aesthetic is, the aesthetics that they've been able to try out have been, really cool in their PVs and their looks. And it also, I mean, that kind of concept sort of lends itself to like a wide array of sounds that they can kind of play around with, but they kind of keep this general vibe of like almost like whimsical meets gloomy, kind of like a dreamy feel in their music. And I kind of really appreciate how they're able to like keep that tone, even if they started out, like some of their earlier music was quite heavy, even though the vocalist was kind of singing. He has a very soft voice, soft kind of sleepy, almost like a sleepy voice, or almost like a whimpering kind of like higher pitched voice. And but then they're kind of they've also been able to drift into like lighter sounds and mix the two actually. So actually after listening to some of their music a bit more, I'm finding a lot of a lot of the these streams I've been saying, like, it would be cool to see like a bit more like of mixing things up, for a band with this kind of concept or a band with this kind of concept, like mix it up a little bit and see how many different ways you can take it. Grimoire is doing a really good job of that. Like, I should really give them props for. I mean, at least on like first initial impressions, they are. It's not. If you listen beyond the PVs or even in the PVs, which is like a big deal because some people will only judge a band by the promo videos, which is kind of, I mean, understandable given the name PV, promotional video. That's the foot that the band's choosing to put forward. These bands, Grimoire kind of has been able to mix it up constantly and but retain their identity. And this is kind of all basic stuff for like, for like more established bands. But for indie bands, especially in indie VK, it is difficult to find your own identity. In a scene where everything's on the table. Because I don't know. I mean, like when everything's unique, nothing's unique to a certain degree. So it's kind of hard to find ways to stand out. Ironically, Visual K, for being such a blank canvas, has a lot of tropes, and I think that's just that comes with the territory of it being a blank canvas. Is you're gonna have like 8 out of 10 people start painting a really similar picture. But yeah, they're quite solid. I was very taken aback because me, I'm Mr. High Energy Boy over here. Yeah. So I'm kind of picky about like the standard of like the music that I like that would be genuinely slow and hypnotic, which is not Grimoire so much, but I'm just giving it as an example. Like I would be looking, like it would take something like Nine Goats Blackout levels of like indie magic for me to like really like pay attention. Or Yeti is like another example, but for something like this, that's like kind of an in-between, I was already between like kind of like the dark and the light, and there was so much going on. I was already kind of curious, and then I was listening and I was like, man, this is like really sleepy music. Like this music's making me sleepy. Like I was listening to it prepping this stream even, and I was like, and usually I'm like getting in the zone, getting ready to like present and like, talk and stuff like that. And this one I'm like, oh my god, because it's just very hypnotic. I had the same problem with Yeti actually as well, but Grimoire, it's more like it's putting you in like a haze, and you're just listening to like some of the dreamland sound effects, or the mildly nightmarish sound effects. It's not like a bad like scary kind of sound of sounds or anything, but yeah. So overall, I think they're a really interesting artist. I think the concept is so fresh, like you can't not like when Winona first explained the concept to me, because she had done some digging. Like I was like, oh well, you can't not like run with that, like try and give that band a shot, like that's like that's like cool. And I knew something was up with the look, because the look was different. And like there other bands that have had a concept fresh enough, I guess Pentagon was one that in the beginning, like they eventually grew into like punk meets dark fantasy, and look where they've kind of gone now. They're like they got quite popular off of that. So I think Grimoire's kind of been a bit of a let me check their YouTube. I think they've been like on a medium burn, I think, in terms of like how quickly they've been getting popular, which is fine. Honestly, like the number of artists that have just like kind of like accelerated straight out the gate and then disbanded 3 months later has like been a little little intense, to be quite frank. But I mean, at this point, they've been around a good 3 years, so it's like, their most viewed PV, it looks like, has like almost 300,000 views. Their last one that came out has 60,000 views 8 months ago. So it's not, it's not like meteoric, but I don't think it doesn't need to be. And I kind of like seeing how they're gradually improving and evolving. It seems to be very healthy growth is what I'm getting at. And this is kind of a different opinion from what I had like even at the beginning of the year, or like a couple years ago, because I was just really I was really skeptical about the heaviness in contrast with the with the vocalist voice. It just wasn't. It didn't seem to quite be doing it for me. And I was like, how is this gonna work really long term? And long term, the answer is that they're finding a nice mixture of like dark and light, as opposed to like heavy and not heavy. And then also I heard him scream in one of the in one of the new tracks, so that caught me off guard. Let me pull up my little releases thingy here. And we'll talk about the music a little bit, because I did a little bit of due diligence on that. And I'll check chat before I get into that. But let's see. So I will hide you and show you and play you. So I'm just gonna put up their album covers. I think they're like kind of cool. So. Let me circle back and read chat. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Okay. I'm here for all 15 minutes, but I'm here to support my voice. Thanks for coming, Gula. I appreciate it. Sad that Amu left. Yeah, it's always a bummer when that happens. And we'll talk about it. It seems like there's a slight shift in their style, now that he's gone, but I don't know if that's the cause of it or not for this upcoming release. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. And he worked on their art design and stuff. Oh, that's a bummer. Girl says, I'm very glad folks have liked them. And yeah, Gula brings up a good point. Their stuff is on iTunes for those interested. Nothing on Spotify yet, to my understanding. And Victoria Nagel says, I will go attain it immediately. Yes, there you go. So talking about their music a little bit, like what they put out this year. So first of all, I went back and skimmed through. I've seen their PVs, over the last few years. But I listened to Grimoire, the self-titled album. I thought the music, that I heard on there was, was pretty solid. But the heavier side of stuff is kind of competitive right now in Visual K. So there's not there's only so much you can do to differentiate yourself. Basically, like if you're going to do a heavier theme or a darker theme or anything like that, it's important to differentiate yourself. And I think Grimoire did a really good job of that with their latest mini album, Psychomachia, Psychomachia, which I had actually was actually had my eye on earlier this year, and just hadn't been able to get back to checking it out. But I did check it out today, and I was very impressed by what I heard. So I had the right call. I had the right instinct on that. But I was very impressed because there is a big variety of, like, you know, it's not just heavy, it's not just light, it's a little bit of everything in between, and even much more than just what's on the PV the PV track, which I believe is Gloomy. And that's definitely a solid song. But I really genuinely thought each of the tracks on this album were interesting and distinct from each other. Like, let me see what I've got here. Like, I think my favorite might have been Jihito. It was just a really interesting, like, what's the hook he's singing? Like, lonely, hide and seek, never come to me, something like that. And then, like, back and forth between that and, like, some pretty, heavy riffs. But it, like, that's a good example of just, like, how, like, they'll go back and forth between, like, you wouldn't normally hear those together, and there wouldn't be an excuse to bring them together usually, except for, like, a concept like this. And then there were some softer ones on here, if I can, like, let's see, that really kind of surprised me, like, the very lazy, or not lazy, like lazily plodding along, or whimsical almost sounding, Belfe Toyutsu was quite good. The last track, Last Prey, was like an outright, really pretty soft ballad, that I thought was pretty solid. But I think there's one more in here. Okay, yeah. So what was interesting about Last Prey? Sorry, I did check a couple clips to make sure I didn't get the names mixed up. But so Last Prey was like almost entirely, I guess, the Last Prey ballad that closed out the track was almost entirely made up of, like, some kind of, it's almost like a kid's orchestra. It's not even like there. I don't even think there were any guitars or anything like that. I think they were lightly in there, but it was a really nice, pretty, like, almost like a bedtime song that was quite the way to end the album. It reminded me of Sekai no Owari, like a gloomier kind of version of Sekai no Owari's music, if you guys are familiar. That's a very popular band. It's kind of like the Owl City of Japan, except, like, not a one-hit wonder like Owl City was. Like, they're very popular, very good soft rock, light rock music, but very innovative too. So I would compare it to that if I had to pick something. And then I think the other one that really impressed me was, oh God, how do I say this? Avariciarity. Oh my God, is that an English word? Let me see. Avariciarity. Well, the first thing that comes up is Dimlim's release name, so it might just be it might just be their own unique word there. But you never know. I learn a lot of obscure English words from VK bands. But yeah, so that one caught my eye just because it was very it's really highlighting, like, what I was talking about, where it'll be going from, like, dark to, I guess, dark, like dark and gloomy, to, like, light and soft at the same time without necessarily having to be heavy. and I thought that was a nice ballad as well. And then the other songs are solid as well. I could go through the rest of them, but I mean, like, the point is that this was like a really nice step in the right direction for them, because they weren't like locked in completely to being like a heavy band, with a light singing vocalist, which I think was what had turned me off from the band initially, even though I thought the concept was cool. And but at the same time, like, it wasn't like they were going like, oh, we're like light here and now we're dark here and now we're this, we're that, we're this, they're that. They felt very blended together. Yeah, I was very impressed with with Psychomachia. And yeah, I guess that's what I have to say about that release. So we have an upcoming release from them on the 26th, called Novel Fantasia. They have put out a PV preview and a mini album preview for it. I believe it is a mini album. I think this one is going to be quite interesting. I'll go back to their look now, I think. I think I think this one's going to be interesting because it seems like they're going in an even lighter direction. Listening to the the preview, and I actually don't think that would be the worst thing. I actually think that might be really good for them if they take off any onus of like, well, it's not hard enough, like, I don't think people should be listening to I think I don't want this band to have expectations of like, oh, well, we have a cool like dreamlike concept, but does our music slap? It's like they very obviously like kind of proven that like it's the concept itself that's like the priority. So if you want to go for Sweet Dreams one album and Nightmares another album and something in between, another album, I think that's perfectly reasonable, and seems like the right move. So I'm curious to see like what the softened up Grimoire sounds like, and it'll be fun to check out. I don't have any I don't have any real hesitation about it, just since they've kind of shown that they can do both as well. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm glad I got to finally catch up with this band, and maybe we can, if it's out on iTunes, maybe we can do a listening party at some point down the road. Maybe give it a few weeks so there's enough people that are able to get it. But since you have to buy it on iTunes, but let me know if that's of interest to you guys. I should really try falling asleep listening to them and seeing what happens to me. That would be interesting. Because they're a lot less nightmarish than like I would have expected. Like they're a lot more like, it's just like whimsical and kind of gloomy and like a little mix of everything, which is a lot more like how your actual dreams are. It's not always like a positive or a negative, right outright. It's a bit of both. So anyways, that's about all I had to say for Grimoire for now. Hope to see, looking forward to this next release. Hope to see more of them around. So I will just check out chat real quick and see what's up. Since I last checked, but so glad this was a girl recommended band. Yes, girl in the chat, I believe signed off. on this. Tyrant Game and Gloomy Gloomy are my two faves songs, says Gula. And Girl says, and Rink sounds exactly like that live too, which is surreal. And I got a couple of thank yous for that, for the stream. No problem, guys. Looks like I gotta head out myself. I will be back at, I think, what did we say? 9:30. Oh God. Let me pull it up real quick. Grimoire made me a sleepy sheepy, and now I'm having trouble remembering my live stream times. Oh man, but it is a nice sweet band upcoming. 10 p.m. Okay, yeah. So I will be back at 10 p.m. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, that was my second guess. So, yep, I'll be back at 10 p.m. with another sleepy band, sleepy-ish kind of band, Yuma Leap. Not so relaxing for me. I had interesting reactions to those PVs. So that one will be curious. Very, very curious visuals there, at least for someone like me. So I will. That one's going to be kind of funny to talk about. So, but yeah, again, Grimoire, good band, much improvement, and yeah, looking forward to seeing more from them. So I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.